Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we have a fragment, written by the one who writes. Tonight's fragment sports a headline that reads, John Wick, and the body reads as follows. There is no patience for the wicked. That is why they have no rest. Let's begin. There's a reason why John Wick doesn't sleep. It's not just the death of a dog or the theft of a car. It's not just revenge or grief or adrenaline. It's something deeper than plot, something older than genre. The man doesn't rest because he cannot, because wickedness has no patience, and no patience leads to a specific kind of fatigue that cannot be healed with sleep. It's a condition of the soul, a spiritual affliction, a geometric collapse between cause and effect. It's not cinematic, it's metaphysical. To speak plainly, wickedness eats its own timeline. Let's be clear. Wicked is not a synonym for evil. Evil is a category. Wicked is a condition. It is a bentness, a misalignment, a refusal of equilibrium. It's not always cruelty, though it often is, but it is always disfigurement. The wicked live out of joint with what is. They are unwilling to wait. They are unwilling to bear. They want what they want now, and so they short-circuit the slow operations of mercy, consequence, and mutuality. They override time. They demand immediacy, and in doing so they destroy the very thing that could have saved them, rest. You see it in Wick, not the bullets, not the bodies, not the blood, the sleeplessness, the forward-only movement, the inability to stop once started, the perpetual tension of someone whose system has been forced past the point of stasis and now must simply go. That is what it means to live without patience. It means to live without pause. And that is the true definition of unrest. Patience, in its truest sense, is not about waiting passively. It is the capacity to abide, to remain within a moment without manipulation, without grasping. It is the muscle of timeful living. It is the engine of restoration. Patience is what allows a wound to close, a field to regrow, a child to grow into their name. But the wicked do not have this. They cannot bear the slow, the subtle, the honest arc of unfolding, and so they burn through time like fuel. They light the future on fire to stay warm in the present, and then they ask why they are cold. John Wick, as a myth, is built on this contradiction. He is a man who has done wicked things, lived by wicked codes, and yet he is no longer willing to lie about it. He is tired of the price, tired of the cost. He wants out, he wants rest, and the tragedy of the story is that it's already too late. He was allowed to touch rest briefly, in the form of a woman, a dog, a life, but he had no real infrastructure to hold that rest. And so, when it was taken from him, stolen, yes, but also fated, he had no reserve, no patience to fall back on, just instinct, just reversion, just the old wiring of the wicked. And so he moves, without stop, without breath, without prayer. There is a sickness in that. But he is not the only one. Look around. How many people in your life, how many systems, institutions, industries, ideologies, have traded patience for power? How many have sacrificed the slow truth for fast control? How many leaders, lovers, influencers, corporations, governments have no rest not because they work hard, but because they cannot bear to be still, because stillness reveals the wound, because silence might speak, because patience might indict them. The wicked cannot wait. That is the law. And because they cannot wait, they must keep moving. They must produce, perform, preen, destroy. They must occupy every space before it questions them. They must burn every bridge before it beckons them to cross differently. They must weaponize every pause before it becomes a mirror. That is why the wicked have no rest, because rest requires patience, and patience requires trust, and trust requires surrender. These things are not available to the wicked. Let's not be naive. There are people, perhaps even versions of ourselves, who do not want to be known. Not truly, not in stillness. not in vulnerability, and that is why they cannot rest. They do not want to meet what's there. They do not want to meet who they are. So they accelerate, they outpace introspection, they weaponize motion, and they call it ambition, or revenge, or hustle, or war. It is always war. Wickedness breeds unrest because wickedness is a refusal of harmony. It is the insertion of self above scale. It is the moment when one voice says, "My urgency is more important than your dignity." That is what the wicked say, not with words always, but with the shape of their life, the press of their timeline, the violence of their demands. And so they have no rest. Because rest is not possible when one is constantly contorting the world to fit their panic. This is not limited to assassins or tyrants. It applies to the everyday distortions we all participate in, the way we rush relationships because we cannot bear to be alone, the way we burn through decisions because we fear regret, the way we manipulate outcomes to feel safe. These too are symptoms of the wicked condition. They do not make us evil, but they make us tired, deeply, spiritually tired. This is a different kind of tired than physical exhaustion. It is a soul weariness, a restlessness that no sleep can cure. It is the tiredness of being misaligned, of walking out of step with reality for so long that you forget what alignment feels like. It is the tiredness of carrying yourself as an enemy, of becoming your own oppressor. John Wick knows that tiredness, and so do we, and the world does not help. It doesn't give us many models of rest. It gives us achievement, consumption, stimulation. It gives us chaos and calls it connection. It gives us violence and calls it order. It gives us wickedness in elegant clothes. It tells us that the impatient are powerful, that the relentless are righteous, that the tired are weak. But the truth is the opposite. It takes strength to be patient. It takes power to wait. It takes faith to rest. Rest is not weakness. It is resistance. To rest is to say, I will not force this. To rest is to say, I am not the master of time. To rest is to say, I will trust the arc of what is becoming. To rest is to become unwicked. But this takes work, because wickedness is not just something others do. It is something we have been taught. It lives in our reflexes, in our fears, in our scarcity mindsets. We have been trained to hustle, to perform, to always have a reason, a result, a goal. Even our spirituality gets wicked. Even our prayers become transactions. That's why the warning matters. There is no patience for the wicked. That is why they have no rest. The warning is not a judgment. It's a diagnosis. It's not a punishment. It's a geometry. You cannot warp the curve of time indefinitely and expect to sleep soundly. You cannot force your way into peace. You cannot outrun the implications of your pace. Eventually, the body remembers. Eventually, the soul catches up. Eventually, the silence speaks. And when it does, it will ask, why were you moving so fast? And the answer will not come from your mouth. It will come from your posture, from your pulse, from your wreckage. John Wick doesn't get to answer that question, but maybe we do, because we are not yet irredeemable. We are not yet at the ninth life. We are not yet too far gone. We can still choose patience. We can still choose rest, not because we've earned it, but because we were never meant to live without it. Let the wicked run. Let the hurried scream. Let the noise continue if it must. But as for you, you can pause, you can wait. You can live as if time is not your enemy. You can sleep, you can rest, you can be, finally, at peace. Because patience isn't just a virtue, it's a return to who you were before the noise, to what the world might become if the wicked stopped running. And maybe that's why we love John Wick, not for his violence, but for his ache. Because we know it. We know what it's like to live without rest. And we are ready. God, are we ready to come home?